question, fire away when ready.
Kyle, go ahead. Asked Davis Allen earlier, it seemed like for a while this season, y'all were making incremental steps each week, and the trajectory was up, and then at some point, it started to maybe be
Yeah.
steps back. I'm curious what your explanation is for it overall, and I guess that includes the passing game, of course.
Yeah. It's just like anything else in a season. You play every week and you go to practice every week and you got a plan, but at the end of the day, you got to go execute it on game day. And we've done a pretty good job of being consistent and having the confidence to go execute the plans on game day, regardless of the position that you're talking about. And, right now we're just in a rut and we got to find a way to get out of it. And that's our job as coaches. And it's also the job of the players to go and find a way to get out of it with our help. But, it's not a situation where we've struggled all year. It's like you said, we've seen some good progress, and we've seen confidence that we've needed coming out of the off season. We've hit a little rut here in the last 2 weeks, and we got to find a way to get out of it.
Any specific reason why you think you guys have not been able to produce any of the explosives in the passing game the last few games?
Yeah, I think it's a situation where especially when you're dealing in the passing game, you have a couple balls that don't go your way, you have a couple of routes that don't go your way, and then next thing you know, that kind of starts building up. It's like basketball. A shooter gets hot and they get in the zone and they start rolling with it, and then next thing you know, they get cold. They go really cold. There's situations across the board. It's not from a standpoint of the receivers or the tight ends or even just the quarterbacks. Sometimes you got the perfect look, you got the perfect call, you got everything exactly where you need it, and you get a little bit of pressure. So it's just a combination of things. And like I said, there's no panic on our end. There's no panic in our players. There's no panic with the coaches. We just got to keep working and find a way to get out of this rut, and that's what we're going to go back to work doing today at practice.
Coach Streeter said that there were some RPOs called where DJ probably should have kept it, run with it, handed it off, done something, and he winds up throwing it. There are times that you can see he probably hands it off, should have kept it.
Yeah.
Is that we've talked to him enough to know he probably knows what he's seeing. Is that a confidence issue?
I think some of it is because you get in a situation where, and DJ is the type of kid, he doesn't want to let people down. He puts a lot more pressure on himself because of that. So I think in some of those situations, he's looking for the perfect look. He's looking for the perfect read. He's looking for the perfect throw, the perfect play. And that just doesn't exist in football. There's too much stuff going on offensively that he doesn't control, that coaches don't control, and there's too much stuff going on defensively that nobody controls on the field. At times, especially Saturday night, there was a couple times where it's like you come to the sideline, it's like, what'd you see? And it's like, man, I should have done this. And it's like, well, go with what you see, go with what you feel, go with what you practice. But it wasn't a majority of the times that you had those conversations. But there was a couple times where you're like, hey, you might could have spit that out, out the back door on the RPO, or maybe you should have kept that one. What'd you see to make? And I'll be honest with you, when a lot of times what we see is not what he sees on the field, and when you go back and watch the tape, it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't tell him to do that because he was right, and vice versa. There's a couple times where the defensive end's kind of in that gray area. Do I pull it? Do I keep it? Do I pull it? Do I throw it? And in those situations, you look back at the tape, in the game, you're like, man, this was wide open. But then you go back and you look at the tape and you go, I'm kind of glad he gave it right there. I'm kind of glad he pulled it. So what we have to do is, just like I said, go back to where, there's a confidence level there in, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Make full speed decisions. We'll roll with the punches. And that's where we got to get him back to. That's where we got to get our entire offense back to. Because, like I said, it's not a situation where we haven't seen the positives out of this offense this year. We just got to get back to playing more confident.
Coach interviews where he said that you guys really need to get Cade some more reps, as he put it, get him ready. Not trying to make a quarterback controversy or anything,
Right.
but, you know, would you like to see him actually, instead of just 2 plays
Yeah.
in this situation or 3 plays here,
Yeah.
maybe get him some actual, you know, work with the ones and do that during the week and get him out in a game and see him for 10, 12, 14 plays?
Yeah. You know, I got confidence. Let me start with I got confidence in DJ running our offense, and I got confidence in Cade running our offense. And DJ's a great football player, and Cade's going to be a great football player. It takes time, and we all know that, especially in this sport where development is key. But yeah, you know, you'd like to see maybe Cade get in there and take a few more snaps and just kind of give you a change up. And then the flip side of it is sometimes when you're the starting tight end, or sometimes when you're the starting wide receiver, you know, sometimes it's, hey, come over here and watch it for a second or two and see it the way we're seeing it.
Sure.
And when you got a guy like Cade, you can do that with DJ. But you know, both those guys have strengths, they have weaknesses, and it's our job to make sure that we're putting the best person out there to give us a chance to be successful on that drive, be successful, you know, offensively, and then find a way to play complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams, and just not screw it up. And a lot of times, I mean, you know, we've done that this year. You know, I know everybody's upset, but we're 8-1. I mean, we're not 5-3. We're not 4-4. All right, let me take my Clemson coaching hat off and put my Clemson fan hat on. How many of y'all been here for? Don's been here for a long time, and guess what? I've sat here and watched this press conference when it was 3-8. I've watched this press conference when it's 6-5. I've watched this press conference when the Tangerine Bowl. We're dying to go play in the Tangerine Bowl. No offense to the Tangerine Bowl. You know, no offense to the Humanitarian Bowl, but we get a berth to the Humanitarian Bowl, and we're like, man, this is awesome. You know, so like we got to keep things into perspective too. I'm upset with losing. I hate to lose. I don't care what I got on my chest. I hate to lose, but at the same time, like we're 8-1. We went to a Notre Dame team that, guess what? They got football coaches too. And guess what? They got a lot of pride too. And we played in a tough situation, tough stadium, and we got beat. But we're gonna go back to work. Because if we had got back on the plane in South Bend, and let's say we scored 50 points, and everybody's happy-go-lucky over the offense, and wow, we're back, we're still gonna walk in the building the same way we walked in the building yesterday and go, what do we got to go fix? Because that's what we do. So, you know, good, bad, or ugly, we always walk in here ready to fix things on Sunday. And then we turn around and we go to practice on Monday, and we start a brand new week because the biggest game of the year is this week. It's like that every week. So you know, I'm not going to get on the negative train. I'm not going to get caught up in the narrative, and our players aren't either. And that's our job as coaches too, to make sure our players understand the big picture. And you know, I've been here for 7 years, and I've walked in this building on a Sunday after a devastating loss to Pittsburgh, and the season's over, just to turn around and go win a national championship about a month and a half later. I've walked in this building with a devastating loss to Syracuse, and it's over, just to go to the playoff 2 months later. So, you know, nowhere in our building does it say we have to have the #1 rated offense in the country. That's not a goal. Nowhere in the building does it say we have to go undefeated. It's not a goal. And when I walked back in the building on Sunday, all our goals were still right in front of us. Everything is still right in front of us. And that's my mindset. And when I walk out of that tight end room today, that's going to be the mindset of the tight ends. And they already know it's mindset because they heard that from me first thing Sunday morning when I woke up. We're just going back to work. And that's what we got to do offensively. We're in a rut. Ain't nobody sitting here trying to disagree with that. We've got to play better. We've got to coach better. We've got to put kids in better situations and account for everything that comes with that. But all we can do is go back to work and make sure that they're confident in what we're doing, and I know they are.
Now let me inside your head for a second. You said
Yeah.
you told them that. Did you get up and send them a text? Did you call them? Did you see them?
Well, crazy enough, you know, we got back in about 4 o'clock in the morning, and A few hours later, the sun came up. Now, it was a little cloudy, all right, because there's a little bit of rain dropping. And there for a minute, I thought maybe it wasn't going to come up. But it did. And when it came up, I got my butt up and went to church. And the preacher still preached. That was crazy because I was actually worried he wasn't going to preach, all right, being down on the boys, all right. But he preached, and his sermon was on static. And it was about static, and the static is seasons of a lot of noise. And it's where a lot of outside noise comes in and tries to affect your season and what the truth is, all right, which I thought was very ironic to the situation we were in, right, still in. So, yeah, I mean, after I got done with that, I sent a text out to the tight ends and just, you know, told them that I loved them, told them that I was proud of them because, you know, you can say what you want, but that entire offense kept fighting the entire time. And we finished on a high note. And that's something to be super positive about going into this week. And I wanted to make sure they understood that. And but then the flip side of it is, you know, we're not patting on the back telling them how great they are either, you know, as an offense and as a tight end group. Like, they're accountable, too, for their play. Just like I'm accountable for my coaching. And they're accountable for their play. So when they come in today, I just want to make sure they know, hey, we got everything in front of us that we have said from day one. But we got to go back to work. We got to get better. We got to treat the Monday like we treated the Monday after we beat NC State and Wake Forest, who was ranked at that time. We're going to go fix some things that were wrong in the game. And then from there, we're not going to let this game beat us twice. And that's the mindset that we had to have. And they all responded. You know, I love, you know, Brenning Stewart's just growing